Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul. No, wait a second. Live from Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host, Kaustubha, senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City. Sitting here with my daughter because we are out of internet at Super Soul Farm today. So we're doing this live in our remote F-150 studio with a big truckload of garbage going to the dump after this. And we're welcome to our show. Welcome, everybody. And we have a special, it's Sleepin' Saturday, Question Day. Today is a day that we take all questions for people on their spiritual journey. We encourage people to write in. If you have a question that wants to get answered, we try our best to answer ones we like and never the ones we don't like. Just kidding. We try to answer them all. And you have to email your question to Mara, our executive producer, at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Happy Question Day, Kaustubha.
Happy Question Day to you, Raghunath. Happy Question Day to you, Sachi.
She's a little more quiet than me. And before we start our question day, we gotta introduce our special guest. You want to do it? He's my bosom buddy.
Yeah, but sure. We got Madhu here today. Madhu Pura is our. Let's unmute him over there. Can we do that? Can I do that? Can someone do that?
I just did. There we go.
Yes.
There
Madhu,
he is.
welcome,
There's my
brother.
man.
Thank you, bro.
This guy,
Love you.
he's like a small little package of devotional ecstasy that wanders around looking cute and handsome all the time, but full of wisdom and knowledge and understanding. He's got a very, very sweet heart, and he knows these different arts. And he's got these. What did you say? Transcendental Backstreet Boy?
Yeah.
Well, we see he plays in Shelter. He plays in Raghunath's band Shelter. He plays guitar.
Kind of like Backstreet Boys, Shelter.
Yeah.
Well, when I look at that, I say, hold it. This guy should be paired up with about like three or four other guys that are like equally good looking and cute and young.
Yeah.
And be doing
Wait, you're trying to
like
say
that.
Paramananda and Raghu? You're saying they're not?
No, they're not.
We're sort of decrepit. No offense, Marvin. But I will say so. But Marta, he's like a wealth. If you spend any amount of time with him, he's like a wealth of great knowledge and inspiration as well. And he's a powerful educator. You know, sometimes people have knowledge, but they don't know how to give it away. Madhu is incredibly empowered at explaining like really intricate topics on spiritual life, on wellness, health, music. He's an incredible musician. The guy came over my house and sat down at the piano and just started singing this most beautiful mantra. Me and Bridget were just looking like, who is this guy?
Was it his Bajaguranga composition?
No, he's got
that's a famous one. That one's like just blows everyone's mind, right? Like everyone goes crazy for that. Yeah.
But we're introducing him because he's going to do some courses on our Patreon page. You want to share that, Kaustubha?
Sure. So if you haven't caught on yet, we have a Patreon page. You go to patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages, where we are providing a lot of content, different readings, different classes. Also, that gets you into our community message board thing, where there's a lot of cool stuff going on, a lot of great association going on over there. But we're trying to like curate more and more good stuff, and Madhu is going to be a big part of that. So, coming up this week on Tuesday, from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, he will do a class on Kirtan, like an introduction to Kirtan. Could you share a little bit about what happens there? I mean, how does someone learn Kirtan over Zoom, and how's that going to work?
Is that even possible?
I think it's possible.
You've done it, right? You've done it before.
Yeah, for the last few years or so, teaching online, even pre-quarantine. Well, we use Kirtan as a vehicle for connection, for divine connection, Krishna consciousness, Bhakti-yogi, however you like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And learning some of the basics just so that we can get in touch with our voice and be able to sing without restriction. so that it drops from a mental space into a heart space, so that we can actually really express ourselves from our heart and connect using our voice by chanting.
And you're going to be able to teach them that through Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely. I see some faces here that have
You already
Already done it.
or yeah.
been doing
Are
this
you
for
gonna-
3 years right now. So like, what are you, 12 right now? And you started when you were 9.
11 and a half.
Do you put people on the spot and then they have to sing in front of everyone?
No,
and they
not on Zoom. That's the benefit of Zoom. In person,
Okay.
yes, but not
Okay.
via Zoom.
Okay, so that's this coming Tuesday from 1 till 2:30. And then on Friday, you're coming back and you're going to do the same time slot, 1 to 2:30 Eastern time. You're going to do an introduction to Ayurveda. Tell us about that.
Well, just some basic tips. Ayurveda is a very personalized science for all different types of body types and constitutions. But
So
we'll
what's
go over
good for one person is not necessarily good for the next person.
typically, but we'll go over like what things are going to be extremely helpful and beneficial for everyone, especially to keep the immune system strong during
Which is
these
very
times.
important nowadays.
Yeah, fascinating times.
All right. Okay. So that's also an hour and a half, and they'll get a good, I'll tell you, I learned some basics of Ayurveda many, many years ago. I don't know, I never went into great depth in it, but just learning the basics has been, you begin to realize, oh, this should have been obvious. And you don't do dumb things anymore that make you sick. Like a lot of times you're doing just things that are the absolute wrong thing to do. Don't eat ice cream when you have a cold, things like that.
Don't drink cold drinks when you're cold. Yeah.
Yeah. So just learning the basics becomes really helpful, actually. You don't need to become a master of the science. You can check in with someone that is if something's a little more complicated, but you learn the basics and it really goes a long way. And it's Ayurveda is a beautiful Vedic science. It's a very sattvic approach to health. That just, the whole lifestyle that grows out of Ayurveda is very conducive for bhakti. And so you'll be sharing that on Friday. So we thank you for that. We're glad that you're part of the team. You're
Grateful.
the man.
I told you years ago, there's no getting rid of me. So thanks for.
I know we try. Sometimes we try to shake this guy off. There's just no doing it. He's like, he embodies a lot of what, Raghunath speaks of, and I try to speak of. Like, he never has anything negative to say, this guy. Isn't it true, Raghunath?
No, he's got a great attitude. We love him. I like to think like he's my brother. He's not. He's like my son. He's like my son. I've accepted his
Dada? Dada?
My son. And he's awesome. And he's a great teacher, and he's part of our training in India that we do. And basically you guys are getting a little taste of the music section as well as the Ayurvedic immersion. Right.
Yeah, if you like what you get on Tuesday or Friday, then you're going to like what we do in January. What he does anyway. Maybe not what we do, but at least what he does in January at our Super Soul retreats there at the Eco Village.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
brothers.
Mother, thank you so much. Are you going to stick around with us? Or you just,
I told you.
Just
no getting rid of me.
Oh, there's no getting rid of
me. No getting rid of me. Hate to break it to you.
Thank you so much.
Grateful.
So let's kick this off, Kaustubha ji.
All right. Now, we're kicking off questions and answers, and let's start. Should I read this, the one that's coming from Anonymous that Rukmini answered? Should I do that? Would you like me to do that?
You're gonna have to. If those don't know, I'm in the car today.
You're in a car. You live in a car.
What happens upstate is we got like Sweet Baby Krishna last night on Patreon. There was like a mild hurricane just hit, and then like the internet's been down for 2 days, and we're like living like I drove 15 miles down the road to a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot.
Raghunath?
Yeah.
I have a question for you. I need an honest answer.
Sure.
Do you really have a home, or are you living in a car? Just, you can tell us the truth.
Hey, you know what? If I don't get back to work, I'm going to be living in a car. I'm lucky that F-150's got a back seat.
All right. So let's kick it off with
back here.
We received a question a little over a week ago. It's an anonymous question. It's anonymous. We know the person, and she's a great person. And it's anonymous because it mentions that she's about to have her second child, but she hasn't announced that yet. So she's asked that we keep the question anonymous. And this was a question that dealt with motherhood. We were thinking of asking it of Rukmini Walker last Sunday, but we didn't have time to get to it. So what we did was we shared this question with Rukmini, and she wrote back an answer. So we're going to read the question, and then we're going to read Rukmini's answer. Okay. And we figured she's far more qualified to answer all these questions, what to speak of this one. So here's the question. As a mother to a young child and expecting a second this year, I have struggled over the last few years with finding consistency in my sadhana, in my daily spiritual practices. And she says, admittedly, at times, not at all. Like, admittedly, like the whole sadhana, you know, the regularity of her practice just like disappears as she's absorbed in taking care of her child. I feel like my primary service has to be flexible in incorporating Krishna into my son's life in creative ways, rather than focusing more on my own personal sadhana in meeting set numbers of rounds each day, set numbers of chanting japa, meditating on the mantra a set number of times. At times when I'm focused on rounds throughout the day, it feels as though I am not fully present for my son. But at the same time, I desire to move forward and dedicate myself to the internal change that sadhana provides. I strive to have Krishna in my life and do many of the beautiful practices, including kirtan, stories, prasadam, offering all of which offerings, I guess, I'm sorry, I'll say it again. I strive to have Krishna in my life and do many of the beautiful practices, including kirtan, stories, prasadam offering, all of which my son really responds to. I wonder how some mothers are able to keep up strict practices while providing care to young children. And while I certainly admire them tremendously, I feel that I am not on that level and may never be. I pray that one day I'll be able to consistently do the minimum rounds prescribed by Srila Prabhupada and surrender to the way of life that comes with the important vow of initiation. But as a parent raising young children and living in this busy world, my question is, how essential is it to keep your rounds of japa, even if they are a minimal number, rather than being emotionally and physically available to your children? Okay, what a important question, is it not?
Great question. Sounds like she's making up a lot of excuses.
You said, Raghunath.
Just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
That's why we went to Rukmini Walker with this question.
Rukmini's going to answer this question, which we love her. This is Rukmini, was our honored guest on interview day.
We'll be bringing her back. We'll be bringing her back for sure. And we're bringing her back right here. Here goes. This is her answer. She says, I think that Krishna is giving you the right intuition to take care and inspire your children first and foremost. This is a precious time in your life and in their lives, and it will pass very quickly. What you love, what brings you joy, will go deeply into their DNA. Love is the greatest catalyst and impacts the heart so profoundly. Our earliest memories carry with us throughout our lives and impact our lives in ways we can't even discern. If you're feeling forced or feeling resentment, they will also receive that in subtle messages. Really important, right? Like, in other words, if the child, if the parent is feeling some kind of annoyance that taking care of these children has stopped me from doing the spiritual practice that I want to do right now,
sure,
then it can be picked up by the child. So if you're feeling forced or feeling resentment, they will also receive that in subtle messages. If a mother loves music, that is more effective for children than being forced to practice the piano, if that love for music isn't present in the home. Interesting.
Yep.
Children are like little sponges. If you teach them to clap and sing and dance in kirtan, they will learn to love Krishna. If you tell them magical stories about Krishna, their hearts will be enchanted and they will remember them their whole lives. This kind of joy will be foundational, and they will carry it off into the future that we will never see. There's plenty of time for initiation later when they're a little bit older. Also, the first initiation, this is an interesting point she says here, the first initiation, not the formal necessarily initiation, but the first initiation is by hearing. You have given your heart to Krishna through hearing. Now you have a rare opportunity to share and communicate that treasure to them. Doing kirtan, doing little plays, hearing stories of great role models like little Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj and Mirabai and Kunti Devi, Sita and Lord Ram and Hanuman. My guru Srila Prabhupada gave his heart to his guru the first time he heard from him, but he was not initiated until 11 years later. Interesting point, right? It's not that one has to, there was a guru-disciple connection for 11 years before he actually took initiation.
Sometimes people just want a name. And, you know, and so in that thing to feel part of a tribe, you give it a name. You know what I mean? And but her real commitment, and I know who this is, this person's already committed. They're already on the plane, you know?
Okay.
You're in a plane going to LA. Once that door closes in New York, you're in LA. That's my.
So she goes on, regarding chanting japa, just make a commitment to yourself and Krishna to do what you can, even if it's only one round each day. Offer it with your whole heart and mind with attention when you can. Maybe before the kids are up, maybe after they're asleep, then gradually you can teach them as well, but never by force, never as a chore with a feeling of resentment that you promise to do something that is not right for you now. There's the comfort zone, the stretch zone, and then the torture zone. You can try to be in the stretch zone. Children come first when they are tiny and need your primary attention. But there's one little story I'd like to share. I met a mama who was initiated and already had that commitment of a certain number of rounds to chant each day. When she went to breastfeed her little daughter, she would first grab her beads. She found that she could complete several rounds of japa each time she would feed her daughter, and that was several times a day. Once, when the daughter was about a year old, she was looking all over the house for her mother's japa beads. Her mother kept asking her why. When the little girl found her mother's japa beads, she handed them to her mother and then jumped up on her mother's lap to breastfeed. In other words, her whole association of love and snuggling with her mom in her little mind required those japa beads to be there. Just imagine. The baby associated hearing Krishna's holy name with the love and comfort and security of snuggling in her mother's lap. Extraordinary. Maybe you could also try it. All my love, Haribol Rukmini. All right. That's like a very soft, beautiful, gentle mic drop right there. It's like, boom. All right. What a great answer. And also Rukmini volunteered to speak with this person personally too. So we're going to pass that information on if she'd like to give her a call and hear more.
Okay, great. By the way, just when Rukmini was our guest, we also have a wonderful, wonderful guest tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to love. Satchidananda Maharaj is going to be with us live from Germany, from the Black Forest. I think it's not. He's not the Black Forest. He's in northern Germany. But you're going to love him. We love him. And that's all I'm going to say. But I'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock for Sleeping Sunday.
Okay. So now we have a question for you, Raghunath, and this is coming from Jeff Posse. Is that how you pronounce it? Posse? Like P-O-S-I?
Call him Posy Jeff.
Posy. You say it like that, like positive. Posy.
He's a positive guy.
Positive.
He's been around a long time. He's an old hardcore guy.
Yeah, Jeff Posy. He writes, why? Oh, this is an interesting question, Raghunath. You ready?
What do you got?
Why is it that we as humans are fascinated by evil? I admit to wasting time watching true crime documentaries. Sometimes I gain
Never do such a thing.
What's that?
Who would ever do such a thing?
I don't know. Sometimes I gain insights into human psychology. Sometimes I just get bad dreams. I've always been more fascinated with God and spiritual things than that which is dark. But sometimes evil or darkness makes me so curious and at the same time repulses me. So why do I keep watching this stuff? I suppose one good thing is that at least I know the difference between good and evil. What do the Vedas say about this fascination? Is it curiosity about a past life? By the way, I'm actually a nice guy and not psychotic. Just being truthful about my YouTube attachment.
Let us be the judge of that, Posy Jeff.
Let's see just how posy you are. We're gonna start calling you Neggy Jeff.
Or Evil Jeff, perhaps. That's a great question. And
Yes.
of course it gets directed towards me because every now and then
Mhm.
I fall into that black hole of true crime syndicated radio nonsense. And I get really into it. I don't tell Kaustubha. And then I have this confession online. I've done something horrible for the last 7 days. So, okay, you've walked that path with me, Kaustubha. That's why you directed it at me.
You are speculating. For all you know, I just did it. I pulled them out of a hat. You don't know that.
Well, I do know that everything in the material world is attractive. Everything is so attractive in the material world, as well as the spiritual world. And we get attracted to what we do on a regular basis. It just happens. And then we dig it out deeper. And these things in Rajas and Tamas, they're heavily addictive. They consume the mind and the intelligence. And what they'll do is they'll create a very, very dark consciousness in us. And you will dream. You won't be dreaming of sweet baby Krishna. You'll be dreaming of I like how he worded, I like to get into psychology. Yeah, of serial killers. Let's not get into their psychology. Let's leave their psychology to a team of psychiatrists from Vienna. Let them deal with the psychopaths. Let us just worry about what we have to. Now, if you're a psychiatrist, you can. I think that's okay. But how do you feel after you watch that? You generally feel watch. And it's a morbid curiosity that drags this dark stuff. And then that is the stuff that we're pouring in the garage of the mind. The mind is like a garage that we're storing stuff in. Imagine you're just storing corpses and bodies and, limbs and, evil thoughts. I mean, the problem with hearing that stuff, if you're not in that job, like you might be a detective where you need to hear this stuff. And even then it's problematic. And I have friends who practice bhakti that are into law enforcement. They even have to separate themselves up because some of this stuff is so dark. You have to have, if you're not involved in that, you got to understand what you're storing in the garage. And these are going to be the thoughts on a regular basis. They're going to follow you through your day. So for me, who is attracted to stuff like that and can be attracted to stuff like that, I just have to just say no to it. It's one of those things that in spiritual life, it's not a free-for-all. There are certain doors that just say never open. And I have those in my life. And I put a big sign on these doors. Never open this door.
All right.
I can
never
go on
open
forever.
this.
Never
That sounds like the beginning of a horror movie right there. Never open this door. I've got to open it. And then they opened it.
And I think we each have a door like that you should just never open, never go there. There's nothing good that's going to come out of that.
Yeah. I think men especially I got to never open the door with pornography, right? I'm not going to open that
Me
door.
too. That's a door. It's like the porn door. Welcome. Come on in. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's just this. And if you're practicing bhakti, this is across the board. That door should be bolted. There should be like a massive 12 different combination on that thing. It should be sealed around the edges. It's like a vault. It's like one of those old banks. Pornography door, never open it. Nothing good is going to come from that door.
Right.
And if you want to explore, have fun with it. But you're going to suffer in the long run.
I agree. He said, do the Vedas say anything about this? And there are parts of the Vedas that deal with the rasas, and the fascination in the rasas. And there's like Sanskrit, there's stuff in Sanskrit drama that talks about the fascination. I'm not so up on it, but I do think one thing about it, and that is that, for instance, there's a lot of attraction to movies about the mafia, and or even like these outlaws in the old West and stuff like that. And I believe that part of the attraction for that is because they're displaying a quality of Krishna Like if you read about when Krishna,
Kidnaps Rukmini.
okay, when Krishna, but I was thinking something else. Actually, when Krishna was like being straight out outlaw, like when he goes into Mathura and there's a king there, and Krishna and Balaram, they don't care. It actually says they didn't care for the law and order of Kamsa, right? Like generally people live by the laws and they kind of submit themselves to those laws and they allow themselves to be constricted by those laws. And when we see someone live lawlessly, there's an attraction to it because Krishna lives lawless. Krishna, he doesn't care for anyone's law. So it's actually a quality of Krishna that we're being attracted to, that I'm free and I'm brave and I don't care about your laws. You know, but the problem is when Krishna does it, it's beautiful and it blesses everyone. And when, you know, the gangsters do it, it just brings misery and pain for themselves and for others. You know?
That's why we love Madhu. He's the bad boy of Krishna consciousness.
Look at him. Okay.
All right. Can I ask you a question, sir?
Please ask me a question.
Hold on a second. There we go. All right. This is from Mahesh. We love him.
Right. I think I just saw Mahesh up on the screen. There he is.
This is via Discord, the Discord group we have on our Patreon account.
Yeah.
In my day job, I was lucky enough to travel and do lots of work on YouTube. I'm UK based, but work all over Europe and Austin, Texas. This does come at a price. I get a tremendous amount of respect, and thanks for the education. I do that.
He gets a tremendous amount of respect and thanks for the education that he does for free on YouTube.
Okay. But if you put yourself out there, you're subject to trolling.
Mm-hmm.
I've recently been subject to extreme bullying, attack on my age, looks, ability, and surroundings. Actually, I like the way Mahesh looks.
He looks great. He's a great dancer, too.
He's a great dancer. Is there a passage I can find and maybe meditate on and read to help me detach from the very personal and unfounded abuse? At that moment, I'm seeing this person as a teacher and a good lesson about myself.
He says, at this moment, he's seeing that this troll or these trolls.
I love that word. How troll has come into the new vocabulary. Getting rid of the old version of the troll that lives under the bridge. There's new trolls out there, and they live online. Kaustubha, can you shed some light on this, please?
I will do my best. He's asked for a for a passage that he could meditate on and read to help him detach from the very personal and unfounded abuse. So yes, there is. I thought of something, Mahesh, and I hope that this will be of great inspiration to you. In the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a chapter called the Song of the Avanti Brahmana. And this is part of the Uddhava Gita where Krishna is teaching Uddhava. So, I mean, it's just incredible chapters of wisdom in the 11th canto is just like great stuff. And so Krishna is he's preparing Uddhava to become like a renunciate. Krishna's about to leave the world. And he's preparing Uddhava. It's called the Uddhava Gita, the larger part of this, and the Song of the Avanti Brahman is within that. It's actually called the Bhikshu Gita too. Bhikshu means like a sannyasi, renunciate. So within the Uddhava Gita, sung by Krishna, there's the Bhikshu Gita, the Song of the Avanti Brahmana. Avanti is the place where he was from. So it's called the Song of the Avanti Brahmana, this chapter. It's 11th canto, chapter 23. And text 41 till almost the end of the chapter and is his song, his meditation. But building up to that, it tells the story of his life, that previous in his life, he was like a wealthy kind of business guy, but he was greedy, he was cruel, etc. And he totally neglected his family, so his family all had bad feelings towards him. Feelings of neglect. And then his whole business thing fell apart and he ran out of money and everybody turned on him. His family, they had no reason to fall in line anymore. They turned on him. They had nothing but cruel things to say, harsh things to say to him. And he began to realize that he had the insight to say, you know what? God took everything away from me so that I could learn, so that I could understand things. And he becomes a sannyasi, becomes a renunciate, and he just begins to wander. But as he's wandering, he's getting abused left and right. And I mean, trolls, it's really horrible, the things that they do online. It's like, it's actually sad that people are seeking happiness through being a troll online. It's such a measly, miserable way to try to find some kind of satisfaction. So actually we should feel compassion for them because, as said, Raghu, hurt people, right?
That's one of our hashtags here. Hurt people, hurt people.
There has to be a pause in between. Otherwise, it sounds like a demand.
Hurt people, hurt people.
Yeah, to hurt people. But that's not what we're saying.
Really weird.
No, it's hurt people.
It could sound like you're telling them to hurt people. Hurt people? Go out and hurt people.
Hurt people. Hurt them.
Hurt people. Hurt people. It sounds like you're really telling people to hurt people.
So then what happens is he's getting abused. I mean, the abuse is extreme. And it's the kind of like his tolerance is something that we can't even try to imitate. Like people are not only saying cruel things, they're doing a lot of horrible things to him. He's just tolerating it. And with this deep internal meditation, he's realizing, and his key understanding was this. Well, let me read. I'm going to read you text 42, which is the first verse of his song. So if I was going to pick, I'm going to read you a few more verses after that, but if I was going to pick one verse, this is it. Text 11:23:42. And he says, the Brahmana said, or he actually sang this, he said, these people are not the cause of my happiness and distress. Right? The people that were abusing him and trolling him and hurting him and so on. These people are not the cause of my happiness and distress. Neither are the demigods, my own body, the planets, my past work, or time. Okay, these are all philosophical considerations. Do the devas cause our misery in this world, these empowered beings? Is it our own body that causes us suffering? Is it the planets and the astrological influences that are the cause of our happiness and distress? Is it my karma? Is it that I've done things in the past that are coming back to me and that's why I'm feeling happiness sometimes or distress other times? Is it the element of time that operates within the material realm that is the cause of my happiness and distress? He says, these people are not the cause of my happiness and distress, neither are the demigods, my own body, the planets, my past work, or time. Rather, it is the mind alone that causes happiness and distress and perpetuates the rotation of material life. So he took this very philosophical, Gyanik approach to it that, you know, we could say that those other things are the cause of our, but actually they're like secondary causes. Because if one's mind is set right, then none of these external things can shift one from happiness to distress. It's if one can take care of the mind, then under any circumstances, one can be free of distress. So he gives this whole analysis. He goes through that song, he breaks each one of these down and he analyzes them. And then towards the end, he concludes his song with a very famous verse. This verse is the sannyasi mantra. It's the verse that sannyasis, after they chant Gayatri, they chant this verse, at least in our lineage. And that verse is this: I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of nescience by being firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas, the great teachers, who were fixed in firm devotion to the Lord, the Paramatma in the heart, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he saw that, let me take my mind and focus it on Krishna. And if I can actually do that, then the demigods, my body, the planets, the trolls, whatever, they can't hurt me. They can't get to me. And then I'm going to read you the last few verses of the chapter that are spoken by Krishna. He says, thus becoming detached upon the loss of his property, this sage gave up his moroseness. He left home, taking sannyasa, and began to travel about the earth. Even when insulted by foolish rascals, he remained unswerved from his duty and chanted this song. No other force besides his own mental confusion makes the soul experience happiness and distress. his perception of friends, neutral parties, and enemies, and the whole material life he builds around this perception are simply created out of ignorance. My dear Uddhava, fixing your intelligence on me, you should thus completely control the mind. This is the essence of the science of yoga. So I believe if you read that whole chapter, you'll find tons of inspiration. Tons of inspiration there. That can make any circumstance positive. And so he went through this whole negative thing, and he said, you know what, this is for my own good. And I think we have to do it. Raghunath is real good at this. Like, he goes on Joe Rogan, and you got a lot of people say, hey, that was incredible, that was the best thing I ever heard. And then you had a lot of people just like being mean for no reason, and but
making fun of my scarf.
and your $500 Levi jacket or something like that.
It's an old jacket.
So the Bhagavatam has so much to share, and I think if you go to the Song of the Vamana, you'll find it really inspirational. You'll turn this into a positive, as I see you're already doing, but all the more so. Thank you so much, Mahesh. Great to see you here every morning.
Kaustubh, being like in a band for years,
yeah,
and being always sort of a public figure.
Yes.
Truthfully, I just don't like to let that stuff in at all.
Right.
I don't let it in, because if you're one of these persons that can take it, I think it actually makes your health ill to hear it on a regular basis, because it's not giving you an honest reflection of who you are. It's just giving a person who hates your guts, who just likes to hate.
Yeah.
And then hearing that hate, it's unfortunate. I don't even let it in the house, so to speak. That's where I love it.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of celebrities, they can't handle it, and then they eventually seek like anonymity, or they kind of walk away from the fame.
Like if you say something, hey Raghunath, I think you're obtuse, short-sighted, and verbally abusive. If you said that to me, I would take it very seriously, because I think you're my well-wisher. If some random guy on a YouTube comment says it, then I have to start, like, I don't want to let that in.
Gotcha.
But I like to hear advice from people I know love me, who want me to become a better person in this life. Troll. Right. I love that word.
Troll. Okay, you gonna read me one?
Yes, sir.
No, I'm gonna read you one, rather.
Read me one.
Okay, this is coming from. Is this an anonymous one, or is this? I don't believe it is. This is from Lynn McDougall.
Lynn McDougall.
Oh, this is a really deep question. Are you ready? I hope you're ready for this, Robo.
I'm ready.
Okay, so it was the long thing, so I summarized some of it, and then I get to the essence of her question. So her question arises out of her own experience of having followed a guru who was a monk for 30 years. He was the head of a particular order of Buddhist monks and the abbot of a monastery. And she herself chose to follow a monastic path and join the monastery with this individual as her guru. She was taught the criteria to help one assess whether a guru is bona fide and worthy of committing to, and this person seemed to fit the bill. And so she committed to learning from him as her guru. However, sadly, after a couple of years, she felt that something was not right. And eventually this person began to act in an unstable way. And shortly thereafter, it was discovered that he'd been living a secret life for years. Apparently one that was incompatible with the spiritual principles. Yeah. Thus, this was devastating to the entire order, which barely survived it. But she herself left the monastic order and returned to lay life. And now the very thought of following another guru, she says, it chills her because of the deep trauma caused to so many. Okay, that's the background. Now here's the question. And I'll read it directly from her. She says, now I find myself in such a deep quandary. My path has led me to bhakti, and the deeply devotional part of me is so ecstatic to have finally found my way here. I joyfully embrace the teachings, even though I am coming from a Buddhist background and I'm having to set aside some teachings until I have a better understanding of how they translate for me. I do my japa with delight, or meditation on the mantra. I have my set of Srimad Bhagavatam coming any day now, and the joy of the anticipation of its arrival swells in my heart daily. Great news. That's New York City Harinam. What is it again? Where did they write to for that?
NYCBhakti@gmail.com.
NYC Bhakti.
NYCBhakti@gmail.com.
NYCBhakti@gmail.com if you'd like to order some of those books. So hers are on the way. And I have been drinking in as many podcasts as I can because they are a balm for my heart and mind. Well, that's wonderful to hear. And
They're the bomb.
the balm, not the
Bomb.
and I am an elder, and the knowledge of my death being imminent, being an imminent thing is even more to the forefront of my mind every day.
Wow.
I know that I need to really take this time and dive deep and come to as many realizations as I can before that moment. This is incredible. I understand the teachings that state that in order to really expand and become crystal clear in the teachings and the instructions on how to conduct my spiritual practice, it is beneficial to find a guru to help you. But how do I find a way to trust myself to do that once again? I humbly and sincerely ask this of you both, and would be so grateful for anything you might be able to share with me.
What a beautiful question that was. What a mature, well thought out question was it. Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for that experience. I can speak about my experience with dogs. I don't like dogs. You know why? I got bit by a dog 3 times when I was a little kid. 3 different dogs, 3 different occasions bit. And you know what? It's hot. And then my wife, and then as I became a teenager, me and Kaustubha, all our friends, all our crazy friends, had these.
They started biting you too?
No, they all had these pit bulls that they would train to be mean. And I was always super scared of those pit bulls. And then one day my wife said, "Hey, guess what? We got this pit bull." I was like, she wanted to get a pit bull. She loves pit bulls. I was like, "Are you crazy?" And so it's understandable if trust has been broken and it's hard to trust again. But sure enough, all pit bulls are not mean. And all leaders are not evil. All money is not counterfeit. That doesn't mean there's not counterfeit money because you've been dealt a counterfeit. But I totally get it. One trick of Maya that I've seen that people fall for, which it doesn't seem like you fell for, is there's a person that gives some inspiration in your life. This person has a duplicitous life, a secret life. And then the student says, "See, I knew it. This guy was untrustworthy. I was totally bamboozled. What a fool I was. He was never sincere, or she was never sincere. What a scandalous thing. Screw everything. Screw God. Screw this path. Screw everything." And that's a type of Maya. Because whatever that person was, whatever issues they had, they gave you something. The tradition gave you something. The path gave you something. I mean, it set you up to ask these very beautiful, eloquent questions now. And your inspiration to get a Bhagavatam. I mean, there should be nothing but gratitude for what they gave you. That doesn't mean you have to follow them. That doesn't mean you have to get back into a relationship with them. But you've created a healthy discernment where you say, that was wrong, now it's cut. And that's important. It's important to cut it and discern. But it's Maya to think that these people, and I'm not saying you do this, but I've seen this happen before. This person was never sincere. There was no sincerity. It's either, we're looking for black and whites often. So this person did offer you something. He offered that community something. And he's fallible. And your real connection, our real connection, is with God. And I can see in my own life, I've had people who've come into my life and have really helped me on my spiritual path. And some of them have drifted away themselves. They gave me a leg up, and now they've drifted away. And my mood for them, and I've trained myself, because I'm a guy who wants to point fingers. So I've trained myself to pray for those people that they can resurrect their spiritual life. And I thank that God, Krishna, sweet baby Krishna, your higher power, used those people to enter my life. And I'm super grateful that they were used. And now I want to do everything to help them in their spiritual life. I don't think I was abandoned. And I think I needed those people in my life to get me where I am today. And I'm grateful. And although the universe sends people to be sort of like lifelines for us, we have to understand they're not meant to be our God. They're meant to help us on this path. God is our God. And I think when we forget that, if guru goes away, then I feel like, well, God has gone away. God never goes away. Sweet baby Krishna is not leaving you, Lynn. Sweet baby Krishna is there whenever you want him. All you got to do is call him. He's waiting for you. But Krishna will send some great messengers for you. And it might come in the form of a human being. It might come in the form of a pet. It might come in the form of a sunset. It might come in the form of a good friend, or a book or an author. So you're not neglected. You're not forgotten. You didn't get an out of office reply from God. You've been brought to this beautiful place right now in a very contemplative time of your life. It's actually inspiring. Trust will come in the same way I like dogs now, but it's come from like discerning. I'm not going to trust every dog. I still got my my eyes are open, but I actually love dogs now. Was that a good answer, Kaustubha?
That was a very good answer, Raghunath.
Lynn, was that okay? I see her there.
Oh, okay. Well, great. Right. She's right there.
She's on my page.
Yeah.
Beautiful question. All right,
It
let me
was.
get you one.
Okay.
Let me get you one, sir. That was a great. Oh, this is from our friend from the Canary Islands.
Mm-hmm. Where are the Canary Islands? I'm so uneducated.
Germans go on holiday.
Where are they?
They're off of Spain, I think. We call her
You're
Kiara.
like me. You don't know
We call her
either.
Kiara Canary. If our goal is to liberate ourselves from samsara, birth and death, and go back to a spiritual source, to God, then what is the purpose of having children? Yeah, what are you doing here? You're just wasting my time, kid. What sense does it make to bring more souls into this material world? Is it a selfish act? I'm not a mother yet, and this is a question I often make to myself. Thank you very much for your work and time, Kiara.
Okay. Say that again. Kiara? Is that how you pronounce it? Kiara?
I don't know. She's never told me.
All right.
There's no face from the screen.
Ciara.
Ciara?
Ciara. Okay.
Ciara.
So, Ciara, thank you for this question. It's an important question. First, the main part of the answer I'm going to get to in a second. But first, I just want to say that we should understand that we're not, even if we have children, it's not that that soul is going to be coming in one way or another. It's not that without our having those children, they would have never. Every living being is eternal, and if it's someone's destiny to take birth as a human being, it's going to happen with or without us. That's one thing. But now taking it to the level that I think especially you're asking from. If we're meant to just be connecting with God, why are we having these children? Is it a selfish act? And so what I want to share is that when it comes to spiritual practice, generally there are two ways to approach. There are different yoga paths, but you could divide them into two different categories. There are the yoga paths where you, the path is based on external renunciation of one's social roles. Some of our social roles can be being a parent, being a husband, being a wife, being a mother, being a father. Those social roles may also play into society in a broader way, like according to your occupation or the duties or services that you have for society. So one path of yoga says, you know what, as soon as you get involved in all of that, what to speak of getting married, having sex, having a home, having a job, having children, it's just going to bind you further and further into illusion, right? Because all these things are temporary, but we latch onto them as if they're permanent. It's hard not to. So the better plan, here's the strategy: walk away from them all, leave them behind. So and when we hear yoga teachings, they're often coming from that angle. They'll be presented from that angle, but that's not the only way to practice. We can practice that literally, most of us aren't going to be able to do that very well. The vast majority of us will not succeed if we wander off into the forest. And it's really what's happening in the Bhagavad Gita, where when Arjuna is placed in front of his social responsibility, for him it was an extreme case. He had to fight this battle and he had relatives on the other side. But in the face of his social responsibility, he decided, I want to renounce it. I want peace. I want detachment. I want to leave this all behind. And Krishna was saying to him, no, that type of yoga, what you really want to know what that type of yoga looks like? Let me explain it. You go to the forest, you're totally celibate. You sit there all alone. You keep bringing your mind back wherever it wanders. And Arjuna says, I don't think I can do that. And then Krishna says, that's okay, because there's another type of yoga practice that you can do. And that yoga practice, and then the paths of karma yoga and bhakti yoga, they allow, by definition, karma yoga and in general bhakti yoga, they involve embracing one's social roles, right? That through being a mother, through being a father, through being a husband, through being a wife, that one can practice selflessness. In one sense, having children can be an act of selfishness. I do it because I want to find some of pleasure through it. But it can also train one in true selflessness, right? If you see that child as that the care and the training of that child is your divine service to God, then when you care for that child and you train that child and you serve that child, you're actually practicing selflessness, and it's directly connecting you to God. It's bringing your mind to God at every moment. So there are two different ways that yoga can be practiced. One is embracing the social roles. One is rejecting the social roles. The common person, it's the rare person that will be successful through rejecting the social roles. But what Krishna is teaching Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita is, Arjuna, don't think that the yoga where you embrace the social roles, don't think that that's some kind of second class consolation prize type of yoga path. No, he'll say it's easier, it's fast, the results are faster. He really goes, at great length explaining the validity of that type of yoga practice. So, if we have no spiritual connection, then our family life, our sex life, our relationship with our children, our job, our home, all of it can be based around selfishness. But if we have the right insights and the right teachings, we can learn to connect all of these in such a way where they become a very powerful path of yoga. So I will stop there. And would you like to add anything to that, Raghu? You are the father here.
I just had all my kids just because I'm selfish and I like kids.
All right.
Nothing to add.
Okay.
I love my kids and I learn lessons, a lot of lessons from these kids.
All right.
I'm gonna pass. That's a novel.
Okay. Now I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're running out of time here, so
No question day.
should we do one more?
Sure.
Okay. This is coming from Harshal Gore. He's been coming up with some great questions. He's writing from
We
London.
didn't get to your questions. We're gonna try to. Don't stop writing them.
Don't stop writing. Yeah, even they come back from weeks ago, we pull them back up
Yeah.
sometimes. Well, I wanted to get to Tracy Conway's question today. But in any case, this one's from Harshal Gore. Why did Krishna create Maya? Seems like he's created a virus in the system. And a related question, is Maya only seen as a negative force? So here, by Maya, it means the illusory energy, that energy operating within the material world that confuses us, bewilders us, thinks we'll find happiness through external things. What's that? What's the purpose? Why did Krishna create that, Raghunath? It seems like a virus.
It's a good one. When they use this example in the Vedas, and I thought it was really weird, but then my youngest child, I remember being at the Eco Village, and the Govardhan Eco Village, and whenever there was like a full moon, he would reach to the moon as a toddler and he'd reach towards the moon and he'd say, come on, he would say, come on, moon, come on, like, come here, moon, I'm trying to catch the moon. And so you can't actually catch the moon. A child can't catch it. But what a mother does, they use this analogy in the Vedas, so she puts out a bowl of water, or a father puts out a bowl of water, and then the child sees the reflection of the moon in the water and then gives the child the spoon and the child plays with the moon. Now a child can't have the moon. It's just, you can't have it. But the mother is creating an illusion so the child can pretend. We have Maya because we want Maya. Now someone might say, what are you talking about? Who wants Maya? We want it. We want it. You know why? Because you can have Krishna right now. All you have to do is desire Krishna, and Krishna's with you. But the problem is I have attachment to things that even me, I've been around this game a while. I know I'm attached to things that I know won't serve me, and I won't let them go. I'm attached to my ego, and I won't let it go. To the degree that I'm holding on to things of this material world, then the material world is mine. And to the degree that I want sweet baby Krishna, truth, light, love in my life, I can have it. But I have to want it, and I have to want to get rid of the illusions of life. Who would willingly pick illusion? Everybody. Come on, you've never chosen something that is wrong. Even haven't you ever done something is wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway? That's Maya. It's not that Maya is not real. It doesn't mean the whole world is false. The world is it's real. It's just not what it appears to be. Maya means it's temporary. So if you want, so it has its use. It's part of being embodied and to play our. So we can play out these roles, but ultimately it's going to cause the jiva pain. And so we're not into it. We'd rather be dominated by Krishna than by illusion. And you could choose one or the other. You got to serve somebody, right?
Okay, well, let me ask you this, because to get to the second part of that question, he said, is Maya only seen as a negative force?
What would you say to that?
I'd say, well, there's two ways to see it, but it's actually an absolutely positive. It's kind of like saying, are jails just a negative place? Like,
right. That's
talking about like fascination with like documentaries and stuff, right? Like some people are watching these, even someone wrote on the chat board, you know, there's all these documentaries about what life is like in jail, and there's all this dark stuff, and right. But really, at least in theory, right? Jails are supposed to be places of reformation. That you go in one way, you come out a better person. I don't know how well they work, but the idea is that they improve.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, and so Maya is meant to actually play that role. That, you know, we embrace illusion. There's some kickback, and we feel that, and we become reformed through it. So in the Ishopanishad, it's, what is it? Om Purnam Adaham Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachate Purnashyam Purnam Adaya, and then Upanishadic Raghu.
You know, this is the one. I never get this one.
Purnam Eva Vasishyate.
You can't stump me more than once on the same question.
Well, you're supposed to go and learn it for the next time. But it says that everything in creation is perfect and complete. You know, and Srila Prabhupada, he has this fascinating commentary where he says, if we perceive it as being incomplete, it's due to our incomplete knowledge. That Maya is playing a role. We want to live as if we were God. Maya facilitates the illusion of that, allows us to enjoy an illusion of that, but at the same time corrects it, reforms that wrong attitude, and restores us, you know, helps point us to that becoming restored again, where we embrace truth rather than the illusion. So Maya is the illusion that's meant to drive us back to truth. So in that sense, it's perfect.
I'm glad I had you answer that second part of that question. That was great.
All right, Raghu.
Woo-hoo-hoo. We did it. We finished.
Satchidananda Swami tomorrow.
What a day. What a weekend.
Yeah.
I love Wisdom of the Sages on the weekends. Thanks, everybody, for joining us out there, especially all you new listeners.
And Madhu. Thanks to Madhu.
Oh, and thanks to Madhu, special guest. Wisdom of the Sages is a listener-supported podcast. If you'd like to support our service and go deeper into the teachings and practices of Bhakti-yoga, you can join the party, the Patreon page, at patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages, where we host more classes, readings. By subscribing to Patreon, you also get access to our Discord message community, where we get to know each other and share all kinds of relevant info. Thanks to everybody who's already doing that support. Thanks to Madhu for joining us. Thanks for all your great questions. I hope those were satisfying answers.
Gonna get to Tracy Conway's next week for sure.
We'll get Tracy Conway. We'll get her. She's old school. I've known her since I first moved to New York.
Yeah.
And Old School on the show. And so if you have the question, you write them into Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give that 5-star review. It makes a difference. And if you're listening to on Zoom, welcome. If you want to join Zoom, you can also email Mara to join this little party we have. We can all see each other. Thanks for those who joined late that I didn't say hello to. Gina Ty, good to see you. NASA from Ireland. Jenny K, good to see you. C. Chavez. Justin Reiner. And now we're going to start dancing. Because I'm going to start dancing in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. Come on, Sachi. Woo!